intercepted. Coming back the other way. Ifatu Melifonwu. This is going to be over. Lions are going to win it. Lions are bringing the NFC North title back to Detroit.
We got the first topic already up on screen. Decker speaks out on Dan Campbell. We posted this, one of the speeches during Hard Knocks on the Rockhound Detroit Lions Facebook page, and it got a ton of reach, a ton of people engaged with it because Dan Campbell is such an impactful coach, a leader of men and women. But he's doing an incredible job, and what he spoke to day one press conference has all reigned true, all of it. Everybody thought he was a meathead. They didn't think he was intelligent. They didn't think that he was going to last. He thought, he thought that he knew what he wanted, and he knew what he wanted to do, and he had a plan, right? They always talk about the plan, trust in the process, and to just give them some time. And, of course, as many Lions fans have been known to do, we don't give anybody time. And it was quick. I mean, into, a year and a half of the new coaching staff and new rosters and a draft strategy that nobody understood, or at least some didn't understand. I would say many, overwhelming majority, didn't understand what was going on in Detroit. But if you go back to the introductory press conference, everything that Dan Campbell said has come true. Everything that he said that he wanted to do is what this team is doing. He had to get through that first roster. They improved year 2. They improved again in year 3 and ended up going to the NFC Championship game, which, again, nobody on this green earth expected to happen, at least not that soon. I always said it would be a 4-year turnaround for them to even have a shot at a Super Bowl, and that's where we're sitting now. But I want to touch on what Taylor Decker said. It's been over 3 years since the Detroit Lions, head coach famously vowed during his introductory news conference that this team, this organization, was going to bite a kneecap off. And I think that's exactly what they've done.
I wanted this job bad because I felt like I knew this community. I played here. All right. Here's what I know. Just as an overall philosophy, you're going to say, well, what's this team going to be? What's it not going to be? Here's what I know. All right. I know that Detroit's made up of great people, some really good people. All right. This community is strong. This place has been kicked. It's been battered. It's been bruised. And I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. I can give you, hey, we're going to win this many games. I can't. None of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that shit. So excuse my language. All right. Here's what I do know is that this team is going to take on the identity of this city. All right. And this city's been down, and it found a way to get up. All right. It's found a way to overcome adversity. All right. And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
And not just once, but many times, man. They get up every single time after a loss and get out there and do the unthinkable. Last season, the Detroit Lions never lost more than 1 game in a row. And I think that's a big credit to what Dan Campbell has preached and instilled in this team. So Taylor Decker, I'm not sure where this quote came from, but this is from USA Today Network, and I know that's not exactly where this quote came from. But he was given a question about Dan Campbell to rethink on what did you think about Dan Campbell the day that, he had that introductory press conference today, looking back then, and what does it mean to you today? And this is what he said. And this was by ESPN's Eric Woodyard, is where the quote came from. He said, "I love the speech. I thought it was great because he was wearing his heart on his sleeve and he was speaking, especially in hindsight, knowing what I know now, those were like core beliefs to him. Those were things that he truly and deeply believed in and wanted to do. And again, in hindsight, seeing that vision come to fruition is pretty cool, especially because I'm sure there were a lot of people that were like, that's not the coach we wanted." I don't know about you guys, but when I heard that speech, man, I wanted to run through a brick wall. It's something I've never heard before from a coach. You get coach speak, right? Well, we're going to do X's and O's, and we're going to do this, and we're going to improve upon the roster, and we've got to compete, and blah, you know what I mean? It's robotic. Dan Campbell's anything but robotic. He does his business the way that he knows how to get it done, and that's with truth and honesty and transparency, exactly the same way we try to do things here. Decker has played only for the Lions since he entered the league. He's been the longest tenured Lion other than, I think, Dan Skipper, who I think has been around a little bit longer. But I could be wrong on that. Decker has more than 10 seasons as a Detroit Lion. He was part of the 2021 squad that finished Campbell's first season with a 3-13-1 record, which again, when you go back and look at that press conference and then look at the record, you're like, what the F? Like, I thought we were going to bite some kneecaps off. But that's how impatient we are as Lions fans, because we've been so patient for so many decades, just waiting for something to change. And it finally did. Detroit later offered a preview of what was to come when it posted an 8-2 record after Halloween of the 2022 campaign, finishing 9-8, knocking the Packers out of the playoffs. Even though the Lions didn't have anything to play for in that last game of the season, they went all grit all night in Lambeau and knocked the Packers out and kicked Aaron Rodgers out of the NFC North. Decker followed that up with this. He said, that made us feel like we were getting closer, talking about the 9-8 season. So it was turning from let's go out here and compete really hard to let's try to start optimizing this thing and get those 3 to 4 plays that can make a big difference and really zero in on the details. I think that the team bringing in players where they didn't have to coach effort was huge for us to be able to do that so quickly. So when you look at the plan, right, trust in the process, what is Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes really trying to tell us through their way of doing things? Decker just kind of gave you the clue. Effort. If you have to coach players to give all of their effort, every single play, every single down, it's going to be harder to win. If you don't have to coach effort, which is really hard to coach, I mean, it's either you got it or you don't. It's like speed. You have it or you don't. You can't coach speed. But you can coach players how to get better with the tools that they already have in their tool belt. And effort has to be one. Being a good human has to be another. Loving football is probably the most important. And then, yes, you need to be a gifted athlete. And then allow the coaching staff to coach you. So you have to be coachable. And then in the locker room, you have to be likable. The guys have to be able to absorb you and be part of you, right? And that's what this team is all about. In September of 2023, the Lions started the season as the betting favorites to win the NFC North. By chance, just because of the roster, right? I think that's the only reason why anyone was giving us any sort of consideration. And this was ultimately, the plan here. The Lions won. We won the NFC North crown for the first time ever, and won a division for the first time in more than 30 years. Detroit claimed the division crown with a 12-5 record, ultimately squandered a 24-7 halftime lead in the NFC Championship game, losing to the 49ers 34-31. And that's where I saw Dan Campbell getting thrown under the bus again. And it's like, man, as Lions fans, can we not just give this guy a little bit of credit for what he's been able to do and the rest of the coaching staff for what they've been able to do in 3 short seasons? I mean, I think we blinked. Dan Campbell becomes the head coach. Brad Holmes becomes the GM in reverse order. We blinked and we're in the NFC Championship game. Who would have thought that that would have been possible? Very few of us. So Decker went on to say, he said, so for however well we played for 60 plays, there's like 5 or however much, I'm just throwing a number, that just didn't go our way. And those were the big difference makers. That just makes you go back in the Rolodex of what could I have done differently. As much as it hurts to look back on, and it sucks, but for us, I don't feel like it was our only shot. I don't feel that way. And as you guys remember, Dan Campbell said after the fact that was it. That was the shot. That was the time to take an opportunity, and we missed, and we're not going to get back. And I think that was just his emotions coming out. He said as much later that was just his emotions, because he understands how hard it is being a former player, longtime player in the NFL, being part of the 0-16 team in Detroit. He has so much background in history. That's why he was such a perfect selection to this team. That's what I wanted to share with you guys to get you kind of riled up this morning. I'm not going to share any clips this morning until I can get a few other things figured out. But if you go to the Rockhound Detroit Lions Facebook page, there's tons of content on it. You might have to wind back or at least check the reels, but we have the speech. And of course, you can look it up on YouTube too. Dan Campbell's introductory speech. I would suggest that you go back and listen to it and realize all of the things that Dan Campbell was trying to say in his own way, through his own words. And man, he didn't lie. He sure didn't lie. He knew what needed to be done, and he's still building each and every day.
I wanted this job bad because I felt like I knew this community. I played here. All right. Here's what I know. Just as an overall philosophy, you're going to say, well, what's this team going to be? What's it not going to be? Here's what I know. All right. I know that Detroit's made up of great people, some really good people. All right. This community is strong. This place has been kicked, it's been battered, it's been bruised, and I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. I can give you, hey, we're going to win this many games. I can't. None of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that shit.